Ladies and gentlemen, in this episode of the WineDown, we have Graeme Reardon from D-Link talking to us about all sorts of aspects of their technology in both small, medium businesses, for managed service providers, and in the home. This is a fantastic episode, so I hope you enjoy.
Welcome to the WineDown, an afternoon podcast where two techie blokes sit down over a bowl of wine and chat about what's happening in the world of tech. Enjoy while Scott and Nick open up about their week in technology.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to the WineDown. I'm here with
Scott
and
Graeme.
Welcome, Scott and Graeme. Scott, where are we? What are we drinking?
Hey, well, we're in the firehouse again for a very specific reason. One is that we are drinking the new release of the Jacko's Blend, the Jeff Merrill.
I like the 2014. What do you think about the 2015, Scott?
Oh, look, this is the 15. It's getting there. It's getting there. I think 14 was probably a special year for the region, and it's not bad by any means, but it's
not great, is it? It's a pub wine now.
It's our traditional pub wine rather than a really exceptional wine you'd find in a pub.
Cool. Now, today's a really special wine down because we have a super special guest.
Do we?
Scott?
Oh, thank you, Nick. That's great.
Yeah, Scott, you can introduce us to the special guest.
Well, guest today, we have Graeme Reardon from D-Link.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been lovely so far.
No worries at all. And where are you from, Graeme?
I'm from D-Link, believe it or
Okay.
not.
There we go. There's a bottle of wine for both of us already.
So what we said earlier was, Graeme, this is not a vendor-specific podcast by any means, and to stay clear of a product push or anything like that. So every time you mention the brand name, you need to buy a bottle of wine. So just to be clear, what are you not allowed to say?
Absolutely.
Oh, that's a shame. You picked up on that very quickly. Okay.
He's better than that. He's better than you, Scott.
Oh, well.
Cool. All right. Well, let's begin. I'm Graeme. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. We don't do a lot of podcasts with other people, so we're just getting used to it. We're a bit cliquey, really. But
yes.
Let's have a think. Yeah. D-Link, lots of people would have seen in Officeworks and places like that. You guys do a bit more, and I want to kind of explore today the bit more. So rather than doing some kind of product push, let's think of some of our customers. You know, our customers sit and look at their network at home, and they've got NBN, and somebody supplied a router, and it sits there and it kind of works. Why is it so hard when you're in the office? Why do you need to do more with networking? Why can't you make it more simple?
Yeah, I think it's an ongoing process, right? Obviously, technology changes rapidly all the time, whether it's Wi-Fi standards, whether it's switching technology, and obviously from a branding perspective, that's also a big one, of course. We've got to spend a lot of money to make sure our brand is out there in the marketplace. And we're, I guess, a lot like some other brands that you probably know, like HP and Apple, where they have a very big consumer side of their business, but obviously they also have a very big business side. And here in Australia, we're a little bit lucky. We're pretty well 50-50. It's closer to 60-40. In some countries, we're much bigger. In some countries, we're much smaller on the consumer side. So it's horses for courses. We've been here now for more than 25 years. So we're doing something right.
Wow, 25 years. So how big is D-Link? Because I don't think anybody knows. What is the size of the org?
In Australia or
globally?
Globally, great question. I think there's something like 1,700 employees.
Wow.
It's about $800 billion. $800 million globally. Missed the end.
Next year's budget.
Exactly. Remember, I used to work for Cisco, so it's easy sometimes to get confused. And yeah, obviously we're in offices all around the world, and many supply chains, many warehouses. One of our big mottos is think global but act local, and that's certainly what we've been doing here in Australia for a long, long time.
Cool. So one of the big things I hear from you guys is I say, what's really interesting at the moment? Everyone says Wi-Fi 6, and I go, really? What's the difference? Why is it cool? And why, as a business owner, do I even care?
At the end of the day, it's the latest generation, right? And obviously, as you said, it's the 6th generation, of Wi-Fi 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They only started the numbering with 6, so it's been a little bit difficult for some people to understand, but most people have heard of 802.11ac. Without getting too technical, that's the last generation, which is Wi-Fi 5, and pretty well what a lot of people still have today. But Wi-Fi 6 really gives you better speed, better range slightly, because it's still using the same frequency band, so physics does get in the way, but more importantly, it gives you a lot more dense environment, so a lot more devices within a Wi-Fi 6 environment versus what you could have in the last generation.
Okay, and what does that mean to your customers, Scott?
Well, I was trying to relate this actually back to something that you mentioned on the accounting technology fireside chat. Yes, there's a plug.
There'll be a link in the description, by the way.
But you're talking about cabling and do you need it anymore? And this is the whole thing about and we spoke a little bit about this previously, that you go back 5 to 8 years and Wi-Fi, you could do a lot of stuff with it, but maybe it wasn't quite the only solution you'd have in your office. But getting there to where you are today, I mean, we tend to run mostly off Wi-Fi. You're going to have some cabled equipment just for infrastructure behind the scenes and for some, maybe if you've still got a server or something like that, but everything else can be Wi-Fi these days, even phones.
So I've got to ask, here's a question. I used to work at Microsoft, and at Microsoft, all the product teams used to compete with each other. So in your world, you've got the guys building the Wi-Fi stuff, and you've got the guys building the switches and the old cabling stuff. Do they compete? So they kind of look at each other across the hall and go, I don't like you.
I think certainly at a HQ level, absolutely. But here locally, we're more interested in the markets that we deal with. So, for example, we obviously deal in our national retail customers, the likes of the JBs and the Harvey Normans of the world. And of course, they sometimes buy business products as well.
Yep.
But on the flip side, we also deal with small businesses, medium businesses, corporates, MSPs, service providers, and they all buy a variety of products, whether it's a high-end data center 100 gig switch, right the way down to a 5-port 10100 switch. So our focus is more around the markets that our customers play in versus the technology, because the customers will actually tell us what they want to buy at the end of the day.
That's interesting. So you go, Scott.
Well, this is a trend as well I've seen, and it's a bit along, I guess I'll say, the commoditization of IT. You go back 5 or 10 years again, and you got a premium brands that used to be associated with this. We're built better, or we're stronger, or we're faster, or we've got all these extra features that you could use in these specific situations. But these days, it's like a TV or a fridge. When was the last time your TV or fridge failed, or you weren't able to do something on it that you want to do? It's pretty much got to the point where, like, you got a PC, you got a laptop, you got the Wi-Fi, you got the switching. A lot of that is so commoditized. And look, behind the scenes, I know there's only 2 chipset manufacturers for the access points on the Wi-Fis. So it doesn't really matter what brand or what vendor you're going to. It's either A or B. The rest of it's just the cover. Like my car, I've got a Touareg. But I also know that the Audi and the Porsche have the same engine, the same internal drivetrain, the same shit.
I've got a Touareg.
That's right. That's right.
Porsche as well,
That's right. It's a Porsche with a different colour. That's right.
Do Porsches have oil leaks as well?
I know I do. Anyway, but it's the same sort of thing. That it's a lot more effective having a smaller number of manufacturers behind the scenes producing all the common components. Then you just add your special features on top. The thing is, a lot of these products have been around for long enough today that what people use them for, all the special stuff is not special anymore. It's just standard things.
I think, just jumping in, I think that's exactly where our focus is, and where our value to customers comes from, is that 90% of the functionality in products hardly anyone uses, especially as you go up the stack. So you're paying for features and benefits that you don't necessarily need unless you've got something specific. And where our brand, saving myself a bottle of wine there.
Which brand was that?
That's right.
Where our brand comes to the party is obviously, providing that functionality that 95 or even more, percent of customers actually need at a cost-effective price.
Cool.
Yeah.
So question, kind of following on from that, we're kind of talking about trends, and Scott sees, we've talked a lot about simplification, about moving away from the old fixed network, about having less complex routing and those kind of things. So that's the trends we see. But you're sitting there in this wonderful position in vendor land. You see what everybody buys, and we like to be, right up at the front, leading the charge at the, everything's in the cloud and it's all simplified. Are you seeing those trends in the marketplace, or do you see something different?
No, absolutely. I think you're seeing the same trends that I'm seeing. We all read the same publications, I'm sure, and absolutely, people are wanting to push more into the cloud, but still have something on premise. They certainly still have some security concerns in mind, and we've seen some stuff just in the last week or two, where there's been breaches. There've been some of our competitors have big data breaches as well, and of course that just concerns people. So. I personally still think it's very much a hybrid model for the foreseeable future until some of those security issues are sorted out, and then I think you'll see, that final 20-30% of people really move into the cloud from a full-time perspective.
Wow. So, question for both of you then.
Yeah.
Do you think the future is 100% cloud? Is that where we're going to end up, where everything's a SaaS application and everyone's an endpoint?
I think that's the next generation of where we're heading. I have this vague idea, though, that there's a generational shift beyond that that's going to be something else.
Ooh, yeah, I'm interested in what that is.
Yeah. I'll let you know once I've trademarked it or patented it. But I think for the next, let's say 10 years, why would you not move off your premises with on-premises equipment into cloud to have that managed? And we've seen this migration happening all over the place. You don't need these controllers anymore. A lot of this stuff is getting moved in there. There may be some special use cases still where it applies, but if you're looking at replacing gear now, you're really looking for the next 5 to 7 years. Because I can tell you, once those switches and access points go in, you tend not to change them. You're really focused on improving your business, not on how what colour my switch is or whatever it is. So if you're making decisions now, why don't you just be done with it? Get rid of all the complexity on your site and move forward.
Awesome. Okay. So, Graeme?
Yeah, I think the other, very much so. I think it's still got a while to go. I think what people want is management capability. They want to be able to see their entire network, or in fact their customers' networks, if they're an MSP, for example, from a single pane of glass, from a single dashboard where they can monitor, maintain, upgrade, firmware, security, all from a single dashboard. And obviously, that's where one of our sub-brands has been pushing very hard over the last couple of years. And I know you guys have seen our Nucleus Cloud products, and certainly that's a big
Nucleus
focus
Cloud
for us.
Products?
I'm doing well so far, aren't I?
We have to rethink this strategy.
We are going
Okay.
to get that.
I'm sure.
So thinking about that, so my background as well as working for Microsoft, I'm a systems management guy. And what I see happening is everybody says a single pane of glass, but there's an awful lot of single panes of glass, right? Are we heading again for a convergence, do you think, of management platforms? SNMP, Simple Network Management Protocol, was a well thought out 1970s solution
Yes.
for systems management. Might not quite be where we want it to be now. The Distributed Management Task Force and WMI kind of was stoppy-starty, didn't really get traction. Is there now a space for a new centralized management paradigm across everything? Is that where we're kind of heading?
I think it's a similar question to the last question, and it's still some time away. Obviously from a network perspective, absolutely our brand can supply that, across the network, across Wi-Fi, across switching, shortly across cameras and things like that as well. But tying in then to other applications, whether it's a Office 365 or some SAP or some ERP system that you might have in the background, I think that's still quite a way to go. But I think there's a huge opportunity for some company, somewhere, to come out with some aggregation model to really end up at that space. Absolutely.
I see where you're heading. I've seen the Portal of Portals concept before. It's not great.
It's a tough
It wasn't a great result.
No, it's hard to do, right?
Yeah.
The Microsoft solution for management, right? I know how hard.
The problem with Portal of Portals, and it's a bit like where Adobe Flash ended up. Flash now deprecated, but Flash had to run on all these different systems. Therefore, you got the bare minimum number of functions that would work across all of them, and that's what you could write to.
Bare minimum of security across.
Yes, yes. Well, actually, I don't even know if we got bare minimum. But this is the thing with Portal of Portals. If you're trying to manage 10 different portals behind the scenes out of one portal, that one portal is not going to be specialised, taking into the advantages of what each portal can do. It's just going to have the common functions available. Is that good? I don't know. I haven't seen it being really successful yet.
It's always the lowest common denominator, basically.
Yeah.
So interesting. You just mentioned, you were talking about management. You talked about cameras. Now, my very small knowledge of D-Link always.
Who? Sorry?
No, I'm allowed to say it.
Oh, right, okay. I thought you were buying for me as well.
No,
That's what you told me the rules were at the start. Huh. Okay.
I think you may have misinterpreted. There's some packet loss there. So anyway, oh dear, techie joke. But you mentioned cameras, and we're starting to get into. I see more and more that type of security being really important. I think more when there's less people in the office now, right? It's just not the same cadence you used to have. I assume that's now a new growing business sphere.
Yeah, it is. I mean, obviously, we've been in the smart home space for many, many years. We were one of the first, to come out with cloud-based recording for consumer cameras, and we've been doing a great job in that space. Long way to go still, and obviously now as we, bring more smart devices that connect into the smart home, such as sensors, such as water systems and all sorts of other things that are more application focused, then it becomes even more interesting. On the commercial side, we've again been doing commercial cameras and NVRs, so network video recorders, for quite some time also. And I think that there's been a lot of concern around, obviously, areas of manufacturing, where cameras come from, quite rightly in a lot of instances, and obviously we're a Taiwanese company, so we stand quite proudly there. I think there's still a long way to go in that space, but absolutely every small business, if I look around here, I'm sure there's one right there.
Yeah.
I see cameras in every place I go to now. So Wi-Fi, switching to a degree, and cameras are absolutely a requirement for every small business.
I know just on the cameras, there's an interesting debate going on at the moment about the old security professional that would be registered and have their security license and various things, who used to go and do the proper camera installs and run the coax, and versus, hey, I can just walk down the road, buy a box out of a store, put it up, and I've achieved the same result. Well, okay, it's not really the same result, but I don't need a license for that. It's become so consumable in that respect that it's simplified that entire previous model. And I'm not sure where that's heading yet, because you don't need a license for it versus you're supposed to have one, or are you supposed to have one?
Yeah, you are. So we have a master security license as our brand, and then our individuals that go out and do site surveys and sometimes installations on behalf of our resellers also have a security license. So I personally had to go down to Ryde Police Station, get my fingerprints checked, and luckily nothing happened. I was all fine. But absolutely, it is a requirement if you're speccing or installing security into a small business and a home. Then you're meant to have a security license.
Okay.
So there is a fine grey line, but from a consumer perspective, into a business. So if you have a look on our website, dlink.com.au,
well done.
you'll find our security license written all over it.
Excellent. So there's another question there. So from an MSP point of view, like business Scott runs, traditionally provides IT services to businesses, and every now and then you have to go and do something for the CEO or the managing director.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on MSPs expanding into delivering products into the homes? Is that an opportunity, and is that something you're looking to do in the future?
We already do quite a bit of that, actually. So we had one of our pre-sales engineers managed to get out of Melbourne a couple of weeks before the lockdown that they're currently in, and actually came up for a business and was asked to also go and look at some of the stakeholders' homes and actually spec them out. So we're seeing more of that. That's very much a business decision for the reseller. Clearly, there's relationships involved there often. Usually, it's probably not a huge revenue winner for them. So we very much support the reseller. If they require our support or assistance, we'll of course do that. But we very much leave that to the reseller.
Cool. But the MSP can then rely on your security license.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. So what about that, Scott? There's a new business idea I came up with in the middle of the public podcast.
Security as a service, SaaS.
Oh no, stop. I'm thinking home automation as a service.
That's going to catch on. That's yeah.
Cool. All right, so that's home, that's cameras. Let's get back to back into customer land, back into the place we live. Ideally, when I look at the businesses we're working in at the moment, we've got either accountants with small offices or one or two offices. Or maybe a national brand with a bunch of offices in different places. And for years they've been sold this concept of the MPLS network. Go to a carrier, you've got one point that goes out to the internet,
Sure.
and this big internal wide area network, and that's kind of not the future, is it? What's kind of your view on that? And then Scott, what's your view on that as a thing?
Yeah, I think from our perspective, we very much see the MSP playing a key role here. It's obviously, more and more customers of that ilk, a small accountant, for example, they're not interested in running their own IT. They don't want to be involved. They want to outsource it to someone else who is a professional, who is paid to manage and maintain that network, keep it secure, obviously, and provide the business functionality that they require. And again, that's where our Nucleus platforms, both our Connect platform and our Cloud platform, come into play. You like the way I'm doing that, don't you?
Connected Cloud platforms?
Don't worry, I'll do a triple at the end just to make sure I buy you guys some wine.
Excellent.
No
I'm happy now.
We should be buying the wine, by the way. We haven't cancelled
you
our
should,
podcast.
yes, absolutely, I agree.
Yeah.
Thank you. And so, basically getting back to the question, though, is the MSP is really the one we're supporting. They need to be able to support and manage multiple customers,
Yep.
whether it's in a single location, whether they've got branch offices businesses around the country or around the world. And so our Nucleus platform provides them the platform to be able to do that.
Cool. And does that extend out to the devices in the home, going back to the...
It can, absolutely. So obviously at the moment we're still in ramp-up phase. We've got switching and wireless, and soon cameras will be embedded within that platform as well. But of course, once you've got the platform, then it's easy to extend with multiple devices onto it. So I'm sure over the next 6 or 12 months you'll see more and more I guess slightly adjacent devices from those three areas that we've just spoken about coming onto the platform as well.
And how are you seeing that across your customer base?
Well, look, MPLS, and historically we've run our own MPLS network. I don't think, unless you've got a specific need, being you've got legacy technology that needs it, or you've got a very specific security need where you don't want to touch the internet for anything, then MPLS is dead.
Okay. Wow, so MPLS is dead.
Yes.
Right.
Not to be controversial, but...
Cameras and smart homes are the go.
Yes.
And we're going to extend everything we do into the senior executives of our customers.
Well, there you go. And look, and it's already there. Everybody got sent home to work from home, and all these businesses kept working, and I can tell you they didn't have MPLS at home.
Yeah, no, good point. I don't have MPLS at home either.
So they've... Well,
Me neither.
there you go. I used to.
Oh, wow.
Well, we had our own network. It was easy.
D-Link devices at home, so
Oh, there you go.
Which product was that?
That's D-Link. I'm still allowed to say that.
Thank
You know?
So
He owes us a bottle of wine whenever we say D-Link. I could have done a far better deal.
well, we should have negotiated this better. Yes, okay.
Brilliant. Anyway, look, we're coming up on time for the WineDown, so that was, Graeme, that's been fantastic. It's been
Yes.
super interesting. I hope you enjoyed that as well. Certainly, if you like what you hear, or if you have other questions to ask us, leave something in the comments, give us a like, and hit that subscribe button. If you want to see when we post a new video and you're on YouTube, hit the little bell as well. So, Graeme and Scott, thank you very much for being on the WineDown.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Graeme.
Thank you, Scott. It's been a pleasure.
Cool. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.